teacher, a mom, a grandmother of 10, soon to be 12, and I am the president of the Nebraska State Education Association. And we are here to kick off the petition drive to support our schools in Nebraska. I want to thank everyone for being here today as we begin gathering signatures on a referendum petition to repeal LB753, tax voucher scheme that would give public dollars to private schools. The Support Our Schools in Nebraska coalition believes that public funds should be used to support what? Public schools! Not diverted to private schools. Our goal is to collect 90,000 signatures in 90 days to put this issue on the ballot and let the voters decide. Nebraskans have rejected public funding for private schools 3 times previously. We need to tell the governor and state lawmakers that no means no. I am honored to introduce supporters for this effort, and our first supporter is Pastor T. Michael Williams, President of the Omaha NAACP and Community Affairs Liaison of the Baptist Pastors and Ministers Conference of Omaha. Welcome, Pastor Michael Williams.
Thank you so much, and it's great to be here this morning, right? One thing I believe about Nebraskans is that they value fairness. And I'm glad that we're taking this issue to the people because 753 is unfair. It's unfair from the standpoint of allowing more wealthy individuals to obtain greater tax breaks for giving to create scholarships. That's bad enough. We have enough division in our society, enough division economically and socially. I think this is going to create more. I'm glad we're taking this issue to the people because it's unfair to students. The measure this measure is going to exacerbate the division in our society. It will mean a few poor, students of color, special needs students will receive scholarships, while many others who need the same quality education won't. And that's unfair, because at the same time it will mean money that could have gone to help all students achieve is spent on a few. That's creating division, and that's unfair. And it's opening the door, as has been stated, to public funding for private schools. Schools, parents, by and large, have the wherewithal to pay for the education of their children. This again is unfair, and I'm so glad that we're taking this to the people of Nebraska, who will see it for what it is and repeal it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Pastor Williams. Local school boards are a wonderful part of ensuring children in Nebraska have great public schools. I am very pleased to welcome a member of the Milford Public Schools Board of Education, Mr. Dave Welsh. Welcome, Dave.
Good morning. I'd like to start out by thanking NSCA and the other cooperating organizations for leading the petition to overturn LB 753, the Opportunity Scholarship Act. As a school board member for over 31 years, I followed the legislature for decades. The Opportunity Scholarship Act failed in 6 previous attempts. Unfortunately, it passed this year by the narrowest of margins with 33 votes. The Opportunity Scholarship Act is simply bad state policy. It incentivizes one charitable organization or donation above thousands of other worthy causes. It allows an individual or corporation to receive a dollar-for-dollar income tax credit for their donation. All other donations to charities are only allowed as a tax deduction. So your donation to your church, public school foundation, city mission, pregnancy center, or food bank do not receive the same tax treatment. That is why this is a bad law to single out one charitable organization above all others. This bill is not about providing school choice to students in our state. That has always been an option for them to choose where they want to be educated. A student can choose to attend another public school or to attend a private or parochial school. This bill is not about providing scholarships to low-income students. Prior to passage of LB753, anyone could make a donation to help those students. That option has always been available to those donations, and those donations were treated the same as all other charitable donations in the state. This bill is about providing state funding to private and parochial schools. And because it is a dollar-for-dollar income tax credit, it isn't even the individual or corporation making the donation to private and parochial schools. It is state tax dollars providing this funding. A few years back, when funding to public schools was debated in the legislature, a current state senator said it would be irresponsible for us to provide more state funding to public schools without requiring more controls. Current state senator said that. Yet that statement does not seem to apply to state funding of private and parochial schools. Public schools have always had a certain level of accountability to the state. LB753 does not require the same level of accountability for private and parochial schools. Public schools are required by law to educate every student who lives within the school district. Private and parochial schools are able to turn away students from attending based upon whatever criteria they deem to be appropriate. This is why state funding should not be provided to private and parochial schools. It is now time for Nebraskans to step up and be the second house of the legislative process. A bill that is bad state policy has been passed, and it is now time for the voters of our state to put this issue on the ballot and let their voices be heard. Thank you.
I would like to get this petition drive started by asking Pastor Williams to come back up and ask him to sign my first signature on petition to repeal LB753, passed by the 108th Nebraska legislature in 2023, which, one, authorizes certain nonprofit organizations to provide scholarships to eligible students to attend a qualified private elementary or secondary school, and two, provides individuals and corporations tax credits for financial contributions to these organizations. We can do this! Yeah. We can do this! Thank you, Dave, for being with us here today. Nebraskans are known for their fiscal responsibility, and our next speaker exemplifies that Nebraska sensibility. Exemplifies that Nebraska sensibility. Please welcome Rebecca Firestone, the Executive Director of OpenSky Policy Institute. Rebecca?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Rebecca Firestone, Executive Director of OpenSky Policy Institute, and also a mom who cares greatly about where her kid goes to school. OpenSky Policy Institute is a research organization, and we focus on tax and budget policy for a strong Nebraska. I'm going to talk about how the dollars and cents of LB753 don't add up for strong schools that support all Nebraska kids. A great public education system is fundamental to achieving many of the things that we want for our kids and our state. But in other states with voucher programs like LB753, we've seen state dollars diverted to private schools, while wealthy residents and corporations become the overwhelming beneficiaries of these tax credits, not necessarily kids in need of a great education. LB753 allows individuals and businesses to donate to organizations established specifically to take these funds and use them to grant scholarships to students in private schools. LB753 gives donors their entire donation back on their taxes, unlike donations to public school foundations, to cancer charities, or to churches, where taxpayers save less than a dime in state taxes for every dollar donated. Imagine someone has $200,000 in income tax liability. They could give $100,000 to a scholarship granting organization and then claim that tax credit, so they owe the state $100,000 less. That's not saving a dime on your taxes, that's saving $100,000. The result is tax dollars being rerouted to private education and less money available for funding public schools. The legislature's own analysts have actually predicted that we could see an $11 million reduction in state aid to schools if 5,000 students attending the state's largest school districts end up transferring to private schools. And that's on top of the $25 million in revenue that the state will lose through these tax credits each year. Under LB753, these tax credits could then actually grow to $100 million a year, which is about 1/10 of the state's annual general fund appropriation to public schools. And that's money that's likely going to tax credits for wealthy families. In Arizona, Louisiana, and Virginia, states with similar programs, analysis has found that more than 60% of those tax credits end up flowing to families with incomes of more than $200,000 a year. Currently, Nebraska ranks near the middle of the pack among states on what it spends overall to educate each K-12 kid. At OpenSky, we focus on the dollars and cents of the issues, and diverting state revenue from public schools doesn't make sense when the goal should be to improve student outcomes for everyone. In large cities and small towns, Nebraskans take pride in having great public schools that make our communities better places to live, to raise a family, and start a business. Nebraskans should then have a say in voucher programs like LB753 that are ultimately tax breaks for the wealthiest. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I always say that if you are a wealthy Nebraskan and you want to donate, then donate. Why do you need a tax credit like that in order to do that? That's not very philanthropic for sure. We next have a former teacher and a current board member of the Omaha Public Schools Board of Education, Jenni Erdenberger. Jane?
Take my hat off. I am a member of the Omaha Public Schools Board, but my comments reflect the realities of every school board member and the mission of every public school. And I have a confession to make. Nebraska school boards do not educate Nebraska's children. We have highly skilled and dedicated teachers and administrators and support staff and operations staff that make sure Nebraska's students are prepared to be successful members of our community. But school boards mostly decide how to spend money to make that happen. Elected school boards spend hard-earned income taxes, sales taxes, and property taxes that Nebraskans are required to pay. But here's the deal. Deal number one. Because we spend taxes that are required to be paid, public schools are required to report in great detail how we are spending those tax dollars and the results we are getting. Guess what? Private schools receiving those same public funds do not have the same public reporting requirements. They're only answerable to their donors. So Nebraskans are required to pay their taxes, but private schools are not required to report how those funds are being used. And by the way, because public schools spend public money, we're subject to other state-imposed requirements, such as only public schools are required to have certificated teachers who bring an educational background and mentored teaching experiences to the classroom. Every student in every public school has a certificated teacher. This is not a requirement for private schools. Deal number 2. Because I spend Nebraska's hard-earned tax money, I am also, as a member of the school board, personally responsible for the spending decisions I make. I get elected or not. But more importantly, I get emails and conversations at the grocery store, and I show up at all kinds of school events. Trust me, taxpayers know how to find me. But who are you going to call if you want information about how your tax dollars are being spent by a private school? Will you ever see that person in a grocery store and ask them about test scores or school lunches or the school calendar for next year? And here's deal number 3. In return for spending taxes that Nebraskans are required to pay, public schools welcome every student. As a former teacher, I also know that we joyfully meet the challenge that we are required by law to enroll and educate every student, whether they're ready for enriched learning opportunities or, need to learn English, whether they present significant behavioral challenges or are destined to be class president, or have profound learning and physical challenges and have been enrolled in a public school, because private schools do not have the mandate or the staff to educate and nurture them. Tax money spent under LB753 will not be available to every Nebraska student. More than half of Nebraska's counties do not have a private school. So they will not receive any of the $25 million, which will grow to $100 million under this program. Not a single child in more than half of Nebraska's counties will go to a school that receives LB 753 public money. And in the counties that do have private schools, not every child is required to be accepted. Discrimination on the basis of gender, religion, GPA, special education, and other criteria are perfectly legal for private schools. Benjamin Franklin said, "In this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes." Nebraskans are required to pay their taxes. The schools that receive that money should be required to be transparent about how that money is spent and required to enroll every student. Public schools are accountable to the public to educate all students. Private schools are not. So we must assure the death of LB 753. Sign the petition to make sure public education dollars are equally available to every student in Nebraska, wherever they live and whatever challenge they present. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Another great partner in this effort is Stand for Schools. Dunixi Guereca is the executive director, and we are pleased to have him here. Dunixi?
Buenos dias todos. My name is Dunixi Guereca. I am the executive director of Stand for Schools. When I travel to every corner of this amazing state, there's something that stands out to me. A denominator that overcomes political, geographical, and generational divides. That is a love for our local schools. That love for our public schools and the communities they serve is what brings us here today. I've seen firsthand the overwhelming joy that our schools bring to students' lives. The support our schools give to families struggling to make ends meet, and the connections that public schools create in communities of all sizes. From our largest schools in Omaha and Millard to our smallest rural schools in greater Nebraska, we know that Nebraska is a special place. And I'm here today to tell you what makes Nebraska so special. Our unyielding commitment to public education. And that isn't by accident. Nebraskans have worked hard to maintain their public schools. By keeping public schools public and refusing to follow trends in so-called, quote, education reform, Nebraskans have managed to avoid the disasters we've seen in other states. This is the goal that we strive for. No vouchers, no charters, and the very best public schools in the nation. Unfortunately, out-of-state big money interests spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to change this. Enter LB753. Instead of coming up with Nebraska solutions to Nebraska challenges, our leaders prefer to listen to out-of-state organizations and push this voucher scheme that diverts money that could have been used to better our public schools or lower property taxes. Instead of investing in education for all students, our leaders are investing in a school choice scheme that fails to protect students from discrimination. This bill is not about giving students choice. It's about giving schools choice. Choice to pick and choose the students that they serve, unlike public schools that have to serve all students. We must send a message, not in Nebraska. Over the next few weeks, everyday Nebraskans will make their voices heard. They will make it clear that they don't want out-of-state schemes because they love their community schools and know that the best way forward is by investing in their community. Because in state after state, researchers are unable to find any meaningful gains in standardized test scores or metrics of academic success. In fact, in at least 3 states, the students who receive scholarship tax credits fared worse than their public school counterparts. There is a great deal of work ahead of us, and I have no doubt that at the end of this effort, it will be clear to all. In Nebraska, we love our public schools. Thank you.
Also supporting this effort is the ARC of Nebraska, who are strong advocates for the rights and full participation of all children with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Please help me welcome ARC Executive Director Edison McDonald. Edison?
My name is Edison McDonald, and I have the great privilege of being the Executive Director of the ARC of Nebraska. We advocate for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities across the state, and we are here to express our strong opposition to LB 753 and to raise the concern that it will harm students with disabilities. We stand ready to overturn this dangerous bill with the will of the people at the ballot. While private schools may serve some students with disabilities, they also leave many behind. Our mission is to protect the rights and ensure the well-being of all students with disabilities, regardless of their support needs. Today, I want to share with you the story of one of our valued members, Matt McNiff, whose heartfelt statement encapsulates the concerns we hold. Matt's a parent of a student with autism. He passionately opposes LB 753 because his son Ben who is 15 years old, has classic autism. Unfortunately, due to his unique communication and support needs, Ben will never receive the support that he truly needs in a private school. Only in public school will he have that opportunity. Regrettably, this is a reality faced by countless students throughout Nebraska. Private schools possess the privilege to cherry pick their students, creating a system where children like Ben are left behind. Year after year, we witness students being forced to leave private schools due to their behavioral concerns, academic struggles, or disabilities. Stories like Matt's highlight the reality that many students with disabilities may not have access to private schools. Therefore, we must prioritize the protection and the preservation of our public school system. Let us remember that it has only been a little bit of time that we have really had special education. 1978, when Nebraska passed revised statute 7933-15, ensured that all students had access to an education here in the state of Nebraska. Our members are deeply concerned that based upon the experiences in other states of students with disabilities, that we will be taking a giant step backwards in the potential to ensure all students have access to education. LB753 fails to comply with IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It fails to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act, fails to comply with FAPE, which is a free and appropriate public education, and it doesn't have a zero reject policy. Without these critical supports for civil rights, students with disabilities will be left without protection. We call on all Nebraskans to care about people with students with disabilities to join us in signing this petition to protect the rights of students with disabilities. Together, let us stand for the rights of all and build a brighter, more inclusive future. Thank you.
For 126 years, the PTA has been devoted to the educational success of children, the promotion of family engagement in schools. That work continues with that petition drive. As you'll hear from the Nebraska PTO Legislative Chair, Molly Gross. Molly, welcome.
Good morning. We stood here on these steps 5 weeks ago when we rallied to support our public schools. We promised that we'd be back if this bill was signed into law. And here we are, just as we promised, because our kids are watching, our parents are watching, our teachers are watching, and we're here for them. As a representative of Nebraska PTA and as a parent of 4 kids who all graduated from public schools, I'm here to encourage Nebraskans to sign this petition and give voters the opportunity to repeal LB753. Parents, teachers, and students across Nebraska have a stake in this petition. Every local public school will suffer because if this remains law. The PTA is not opposed to private schools. We're opposed to public tax dollars being used to fund private schools. Don't forget, public schools are open to all students, unlike private schools. Our country was built on the idea that a quality public education must be made available to all children. It's an investment that supports our democracy and benefits everyone in our community and in our state. LB753 is not about helping kids. It's about giving huge tax breaks to corporations and to super wealthy. This is a scheme to divert hundreds of millions of tax dollars to private schools. It's a bad public policy and it will hurt public schools. The Nebraska PTA is in full support of this petition drive, and we will work to ensure that we gather enough signatures to put this issue on the November 2024 general election ballot. We don't forget that our kids are watching and that they need our voices just like just as they are growing their voices. The parents, teachers, and students are counting on us, and we're investing our efforts into them. Please visit Support Our Public Schools Nebraska website and sign up to help us with this petition drive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Molly, and the Nebraska PTA. Wrapping up this petition kickoff is Nebraska's 2016 Teacher of the Year and current president of the Millard Education Association, and a debate coach that never goes away. So, yeah, that wasn't in the script, Tim. I added that. Tim Ryers from Millard. Come on.
Are we fired up? All right. You've heard from a lot of people today, and the message has been very consistent. And I want to echo something that Jenni said. Facts are the facts. And the facts are, we're not opposed to parents getting the ability to choose the educational environment that best fits their kids. But we don't want public dollars going to private schools. Public dollars need to go to schools that are accredited, because in LB753, they don't have to be accredited to receive this money. We want it to go to schools that welcome all kids, regardless of their identity, regardless of their educational needs, regardless of any other background of who that kid is. They deserve to be educated in that environment, and that's where we want our tax dollars to go. We know Nebraska has one of the strongest K-12 public education systems in the country. Period. And again, that's not my opinion, that's the facts. On the latest round of the NAACP results, there was not a single state that did better than Nebraska in 4th grade math. And there were only a handful of states that did better in 4th grade reading. We also know that not only are our schools great, we also know that what LB753 wants to, where they want to take us, doesn't work. You heard it from Dunixi. Look at states like Indiana and Ohio and Louisiana. Those kids saw worse. They regressed on academic performance. In fact, in some of those locations, they had more academic loss because of privatization than they did because of the pandemic. Think about how significant that is. But look, we're not here. We have talked about LB753 for a long time, this legislative cycle. We're here because we're going to let the people of Nebraska be the ultimate ones that decide whether this happens or not. The people of Nebraska are going to do what the legislators in this building should have done, which is say no to LB753. Governor Pillen put out a press release criticizing this effort, and his criticism speaks to the reality, because if this is truly what's in the best interest of kids, and if this is truly what the Nebraska people want, what is he afraid of? He's afraid because he knows this does not represent the will of the people. Not only has this been rejected multiple times in Nebraska, as Jenni mentioned, this has never passed a vote of the people in any state, period. And it's not going to pass now. George Norris, the architect of the unicameral, he knew there would be times where the state senators would abuse their power and pass bad policy, which is why he believed the people were the second house and that the referendum process should be used to serve as a check when those bad policies happen. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And it's fitting that we're doing this press conference on the north steps of the Capitol, because behind me are the words of Nebraska philosopher Hartley Burr Alexander: the salvation of the state is the watchfulness of the citizen, and the citizens of Nebraska are going to get this done. We're going to get this issue on the ballot, and we're going to send a very clear message in this next election that public dollars go to public schools. They have been trying this for 7 years now, and we're going to make sure this is the last time they try, because the people of Nebraska are going to say enough is enough. This is going to happen. We are going to deliver for all the kids in Nebraska. Thank you very much.
This is what democracy looks like. So, we have our Support Our Schools Nebraska website to find information where you can sign the petition. You can also sign up to volunteer to help, contribute to the cause, or order a great Support Our Schools Nebraska t-shirt. Please like and follow our social media, and you will find Support for Schools, our Support Our Schools Nebraska, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Here we go, friends. Everybody, thank you for being here. Do not leave before you sign a petition. Thank you.